Masachet Hullin Daf Sadi He Amud Aleph, approximately 15 lines down from the bottom. Tashma, again, we're trying to question Rav that whether or not we're worried about meat was swapped or taken away if it's not seen. Masab Basar, if a person found meat in a city that has Goyim and Jews, you go after the majority of the butchers. You go after the majority of meat, depending on whichever the majority of each are. That's who we go by. So therefore, majority of Jews, mutar, even if it's unsupervised. So we don't care about what Rab said about maybe it was brought in or swapped. Where it says, and if you want to say, okay, over there also some of the case where it was found, it wasn't found, but rather it was found by the goy, then if it's called, why do you fall to those who eat meat? Let's see. If the goy is holding it, it is likely over Jews holding it. Right? So if the goy is holding it, he cooked it, it's asur. So again, question still lays against Rav. The says, in the case, over here, the Jew standing from far and he sees the meat fall from somebody, and therefore it's not for sure a goy, and we don't know if, and it was definitely not swapped. Tashma, another proof. If meat that was found in a street outside of Jerusalem, if it climbed limbs, you assume there was nivelot. Chatichot mutar, but if it's sliced, you assume it's mutar. Because why? If it's limbs, the guy who had it was probably a nivelah. He sliced it out. He just chucked the limbs out the window. But if it's sliced nicely, like a roast, you can assume it was mutar meat that was left behind. So again, how come we're not worried that it got swapped? The Gemara says, if you say, okay, and maybe over here when it says the same case, the guy sees someone dropping it, then why would it be asur by nivelot? The Gemara says, that's not a question against Rav. We said over there, Rav hold, mutarot mishum nivelah. They're mutar regarding the tumah nivelah. They're not mutar to be eaten, but they're mutar, not suspicion of being nivelah. Livmi says, mutar b'achel, even eat it. So again, he holds over here. It's not talking about eating. He's talking about over here. It's just not tameh. Okay, this is what we said about Rav was not said outright, but rather we learned something else that happened. Rav was sitting by the boat that crosses the Ishtatit river. He was standing, he was cutting off an animal's head into the river. The head fell into the river. And what happened? He brought a basket. In the basket, he went fishing with the basket, and he brought up two heads. Rav said, is it normal for a person to lose one thing and then he finds two? Must be there are other heads there. He said both heads are asur. We're not sure which one was which, and therefore it's asur. We're not sure if both of them were slaughtered correctly. I told him, 1 second. Why do you think it has to be non-kosher? What, there's only non-kosher meat that's common, and mutar meat not common? Rav answered them, non-kosher meat is more common. So again, we see Rav is like, according to his reasoning, out of sight makes it asur. Okay, so if he didn't say it outright, why have to point out that he said we learned it from a story? Why is that a big deal? The Gemara says, that was a dock. That location by the water was full of goyim. Therefore, maybe you would assume, in general, maybe he doesn't hold that. We assume something got swapped. Take down, I can prove it. The Gemara who's the Yitzurah Shechit Fei, because he said that there's more asur meat here. How did he ever eat meat? In a case where meat was not, no one took the eyes off the meat. It was never unsupervised. Answer. If it was tied and sealed like we have now, or bisimani mark. Like Rabbi Rav Huna would cut meat into triangles. That would be his sima. Rav was visiting Rav Hanan his son-in-law. He saw a boat coming. He said, a boat coming toward me must be a party by me. Right? It's like it was just coming immediately. It was coming just some time for him. He's like, oh, must be a good sign. As I come by, he stood by the gate. He peeked through the door. They saw animals hanging to be prepared for a meat, for a feast. He knocked on the gate. Everybody came out to say hi. The butchers who were preparing the meat came out to greet him also, which means the meat was not supervised. Rav did not move his eyes from the meat. He told the butchers, if I was relying on you guys, see if you do that, you would have fed my meat to my grandkids. The asur meat to my grandkids. So and he still didn't eat from that meat. Why? If worried about not supervised, but it was supervised. He himself just did. He did not. He liked. Since he predicted the fact that there might be a party, like he said, oh, it was a good sign that the boat came to meet me. He's like, oh, I kind of predicted it, and therefore I don't want to rely on that. It's like inappropriate for me to follow through on it. The Rav said, so now we're going to say 1 second. That's not the reason why he didn't have meat. That's not considered a type of situation where you predicted something or you try to talk something into existence. Because Eliezer ben Avram or Yonatan the son of Shaul, those were ones that were done inappropriately. Shaul, Eliezer, he said, I want Yitzhak to marry when he was supposed to get. He made a test for Hashem. Yonatan also did a certain test to see if the Plishtim were strong and had courage. So he over here, Rav he's like, oh, it must be a good sign. That wasn't the same thing. So it can't be the reason that he didn't eat the meat. The Gemara says, Ela Sudat Harshut Hava. It was his feast that was for no reason. It was an optional feast. Rav would not have an optional feast without mitzvah. Imagine he saw what we do today nowadays. Rav Badik Mimara, Rav would quote unquote foretell with a boat. Only the boat came, that's what you said. Ushmuel Batik Besifra, Shmuel would check a pasuk in the Torah. Rabbi Yochanan Batik Beinuka, and Rabbi Yochanan would tell a child, tell me your pasuk you're learning, and that's how he would take omens. Kulish Rav, all the years of Rav's life, have a katav that Rabbi Yochanan would write to him, Lekadam Rabbeinu b'Shuvavel, to our teacher in Bavel. Kinach Hashem when Rav died, and Shmuel replaced him in Bavel. Have a katav Shmuel, he told Shmuel, Lekadam Haverinu Shuvavel, to our friend in Bavel. Don't you know that I'm now considered your teacher? Shmuel responded to Rabbi Yochanan with the calendars and the calculation of the calendars and the leap years of the calendars for the next 60 years. Yochanan's like, great, you're good at math, you know how to calculate. Then he wrote to Rabbi Yochanan 13 camel loads of sifekot about tirefot. So basically he sent them a bunch. I was exaggerated a number. But it means like a lot of papers full of dirashim about sifekot about teref, meat. He's like, I am impressed. I do have a teacher in Bavel. I'm going to go visit him. He told the child, teach me the pasuk that you're learning. He answered him, Shmuel met. He said, the pasuk that I'm learning now is Shmuel died. Shmuel said, must be Shmuel died, and now I don't visit him. But it's not true. Shmuel did not die. Hashem did not want Rabbi Yochanan to bother himself with traveling. Tanya writes says, Rabbi Shimon ben Lazar Omer, Bayit Tinok v'Isha, a house, a child being born or marrying a woman, even though there's no official omens, yesh siman, there could be signs. Right? So you can't rely on certain things, but you could take signs. So like business, if you have a good sign of business and immediately it's a good sign, or with a wife, if it seems smooth while dating, etc. Happened to me actually. My rabbi told me I was dating a girl. It was very complicated. I ended up breaking it off, and he told me that when it comes to the right one, things just run smoother. The kachava. Okay. Amara bi Elazar. V'hu tahzek lat simni. The siman is only established only if it happened 3 times. The pasuk says, Yosef enenu v'Shimon enenu ve'Binyamin tikahu. But we see by Yaakov, when they wanted to take Binyamin, he was saying, I don't want you guys to establish a theme, a pattern here. Because you took Yosef, you took Shimon, now Binyamin, so we see 3 times is the magic number. I had a question. What if the meat was hanging on a string, not supervised? He answered him, don't be a fool about this. It's for sure a sign that the meat was not switched. The inversion, he says the string is a good sign. He visited the rabbi at Erev Yom Kippur. The ravens came and dropped livers and kidneys in the streets. He said, take and eat it. Because it's Erev Yom Kippur, we can assume most people are making food and that's where they take it from. Rabbi Baravin lost the colon of an animal. It was by the barrels in the wine cellar. They came to Ravuna. Can we eat it or not? Do you have a siman? I don't have a good siman. Can you recognize it visually? Yes. He said, so take it. Similar story. Lost the meat. He came to Rahman. Gave a sign. Can you recognize it visually? He said, yes. Therefore, if that's the case, you go eat it. Natan lost a roll of tichelet string and found it. Can I use it? Do you have a siman? No, I don't have. Can you recognize it? Yes. If that's the case, you could use it for tzitzit. You don't have to worry that it's not, because these have a very good fake. Marav says, I used to say, simana adif that a siman is better than a visual recognition. Because we return a lost object with just a siman. And you can't return it just because someone recognizes it. Once I heard these halachot, obviously visual recognition is even better than a siman, because you don't need a siman, you could just do it with visual recognition. Because that's not the case. That's the case, because I could prove to you that visual recognition is effective. Otherwise, a blind man can never be with his wife. Because who says it's his wife? Also, a regular man can be with their wives at nighttime. Who says they could see, they can't see? Who's maybe it's somebody else? Must be that voice recognition and visual recognition. Must be recognition is good enough. I also bring a proof. The illu atu betre amre. Two people came to Bedin and said, a certain person with a certain mark on himself. He had a beauty mark on his shoulder. He killed somebody. We can't kill him. We said recognize them. We could kill him. I can prove to you as well. Someone told the messenger, go call this guy that has a certain mark. I don't know if he'll actually find that guy. But if he knows what he looks like, he'll know him if he sees him. So we see visual recognition is very important and prominent.